Hey everyone, welcome. Get comfortable, and let's get into tonight's Reddit stories. Imagine you've spent years clawing your way to financial stability, finally feeling safe, and then your partner casually tells you that you'll be the one covering a $25,000 loss from a decision you never made. What do you do when someone you love just assumes your hard-earned safety net is now theirs? My 31-year-old boyfriend assumes I'll take on a $25,000 loss because of his decisions? I'm a 31-year-old woman, and I've been with my boyfriend who's 30 for 2 years. We've been living together for 1 year. He's generally thoughtful, kind, and really attentive. We've been talking seriously about getting engaged this summer. He bought a condo before we started dating. His parents encouraged him to do it and helped him with the down payment. He'd never lived on his own before that, and they also paid for his education. For some context about me, I lost my mom 10 years ago, and my dad has been sick for years. I moved back home for 2 years to rebuild financially after living in a high cost of living area. I just finished paying off my student loans and have worked really hard to build up my savings. Financial security is extremely important to me because I don't really have a safety net or anywhere to go if something were to happen to my dad. Now he wants to sell his condo because after running the numbers, he thinks we'd save more money renting together long term. I'm open to renting, even though my monthly costs would go up because I'd actually be part of the decision about location, space, and all of that. The issue is that he'd probably take about a $25,000 loss after fees if he sells. Last night, he said he's debating selling now instead of waiting until his mortgage renewal because even if he waits, he might still be selling at a loss, and selling now would give him more time to rebuild his savings. Then he said, "And realistically, it's going to be costing you 25 grand because I don't have that money." That comment really threw me. I didn't think me taking on that loss was even something we'd be talking about, let alone something that sounded like an assumption. Especially since he knows how I feel about the importance of financial security. The only way I could help would be by pulling money from my RRSP, which comes with tax penalties and long-term opportunity costs. If I paid that upfront cost, my monthly expenses would then go up, which would make it even harder for me to replace that money. Beyond that, emotionally, it makes me feel really vulnerable. If something went wrong in our relationship down the line, I'd be in a vulnerable position, potentially unable to leave if I wanted to. I don't want to sound selfish, but I also don't feel like I should be responsible for covering a loss on an asset I don't own and never chose to buy, especially when I've made a lot of sacrifices to get where I am financially. He's a kind and generous partner overall, which is why this is so confusing. But it's making me second-guess whether I'd feel financially safe getting engaged without much clearer protections in place. Am I being unreasonable for not wanting to take on this $25,000 loss? If you were in my position, how would you protect yourself? Would you talk to a lawyer, a financial advisor, or both? Reddit had a very strong reaction to this situation. The top comment flat out said that the boyfriend is making a terrible financial move. Selling a condo at a massive loss just to rent. From their perspective, that alone is a red flag about his decision-making. They warned OP not to agree to take on that loss and to seriously reconsider tying her financial future to someone who makes choices like this. Their point was that if financial security is important to her, merging finances with someone who expects her to bail him out will constantly undermine that security. Another highly upvoted comment reminded OP of something very simple. She can just say no. They emphasize that she's not married to him, she's not on the mortgage, and she doesn't owe him anything financially. To them, It sounded like he's used to being financially supported by his parents and is now sliding that expectation onto her. They compared renting with a boyfriend to renting with a roommate. Each person pays their share, and if he can't afford his, that's his problem, not hers. A third commenter was even more blunt. Do not take on this loss. They stress that OP is not responsible for his past financial choices and that she should protect the savings she worked so hard to build. What do you think about this? If your partner assumed you'd cover a $25,000 loss on something you never agreed to buy, how would you handle that conversation? Would this be a deal breaker for you or something you try to work through with clear financial boundaries? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Imagine you finally land your dream job in the city. You've got this chance to cut your brutal commute in half. And your boyfriend tells you that if you move, you're done. No cheating, no big blowout fight. Just an ultimatum about where you live and who you might become. What are you even supposed to do with that? My boyfriend said we're done if I move to New York City for my job that I commute to every day. Is it bad if I still move anyway? My boyfriend and I are both 26, and we've been dating for about 6 months. A couple of months ago, I got a job in New York City. He's been unemployed for about 7 months. I commute into the city every day, and while the train ride itself isn't terrible, the time, the cost, and just the overall exhaustion are really starting to wear me down. Living in the city would make my life so much easier. My lease ends in a couple of months, and one of my best friends from home, someone I've been close with for 15 years, has also been planning to move to New York City. So we decided we'd get a place together. She's single, social, and likes going out, which feels pretty normal for people in their mid to late 20s. My boyfriend keeps saying that since we're almost 30, we should be settling down and done with going out. He's also told me that if I keep going out, I'll never find my husband. For context, I've always had a close group of girlfriends. I used to go out more, but now it's usually just drinks once or twice a week. Nothing wild. I'm really conflicted. If I stay where I am, it's not like my boyfriend and I would be moving in together anyway. He lives with his parents and doesn't currently have the money to get his own place. Staying would basically just mean we don't break up. If I move to the city, he's convinced I'll be out until 4 in the morning every night, partying and hanging out with guys because of my roommate, even though I've repeatedly told him that's not who I am and not what I want. He doesn't believe me and has flat out said he doesn't trust me, even though I've never cheated on him or even come close. I've even offered for him to move with me and keep applying for jobs in New York City, but he said no because he doesn't want to live there. I feel really stuck, and I don't know how to handle this. I genuinely do love him, but I also feel like this is the only time in my life where I could move to the city, since I'm not tied down to anything except him. Any advice, perspectives, or personal experiences would be really appreciated. Thank you for reading. Too long, didn't read. I work in New York City and want to move there with my longtime best friend when my lease ends. My unemployed boyfriend of 6 months says moving will turn me into a party girl, doesn't trust me, and thinks we're too old to go out at all. He refuses to move with me. I'm torn between doing what makes sense for my life and keeping the relationship. Reddit did not hold back on this one. The top comment points out the obvious contrast. You're working a demanding job in New York City and commuting every day, while he's been unemployed for months and living with his parents. That commenter thinks he's afraid you'll outgrow him once you're in the city, and says it makes total sense for you to shorten your commute and keep seeing your friends a couple of times a week. Their advice is to focus on supporting yourself and your own growth, not structuring your life around someone who can't even support himself yet. Another highly upvoted comment zeroes in on the length of the relationship, 6 months. They say a boyfriend of just half a year doesn't get to issue ultimatums about where you live or how you handle your career, especially when he's unemployed. Their take is that you should go to New York with your friend, enjoy your life, and leave him behind. One of the more detailed comments calls it awesome when the trash takes itself out. They say he's already shown you who he is, insecure, controlling, selfish, and willing to tear you down with lines like, "You'll never find a husband just because you have an opportunity he doesn't." They stress that you're only 6 months in. This is supposed to be the honeymoon phase when people are on their best behavior, and he already thinks he can dictate your career, your living situation, and your social life. That commenter also questions what exactly you'd be settling down with, since he currently has nothing stable to offer. In their view, this is the stage of life where you should be prioritizing your career and yourself, not shrinking your world to keep a new boyfriend happy. They say a decent partner would be disappointed to see you less, sure, but ultimately supportive of a move that clearly makes sense for your life. Their conclusion is that someone with no job and still living with his parents shouldn't be trying to control anyone else's future. What do you think about this ultimatum? Is it reasonable for a 6-month partner to say, "It's over if you move"? Or is that a giant red flag? If you were in her shoes, commuting every day with the chance to move closer to work and live with a longtime friend, would you stay put for the relationship or take the leap and move to the city anyway? Tell me your thoughts, what you do, and if you've ever had a partner try to control a big life decision like this. Imagine your boyfriend pretending to propose to you, over and over, even though you've both agreed you never want to get married. Then the one time you finally ask what's so funny about it, he completely shuts down and stops talking to you. What are you even supposed to do with that? Boyfriend faked a proposal to me and shut down completely after I asked him what was funny about it. So, like the title says, this happened last night. We were just sitting there playing cards, and when we were done, he was putting the cards back in the box. While he was doing that, he told me to close my eyes because he had a surprise for me. I did what he asked, closed my eyes, and while my eyes were closed, he slipped my favorite ring into the card box and then handed it to me. I opened it, saw the ring, rolled my eyes, and he thought it was absolutely hilarious. He's also faked other proposals in the past, like when he's bending down to tie his shoelaces and stuff like that. I'd say he's done it about 4 or 5 times total. Important context here. Neither of us wants to get married, so it's obviously meant as a joke. He got really ruffled when I asked him to explain what exactly was funny about it. When I asked, my goal was either to understand the joke so I could actually laugh with him, or to tell him I wanted him to stop because it feels slightly humiliating. I pushed a bit more when he didn't really answer my questions, and he said he didn't like to put much thought into it. My feelings about it are weird. I feel like I'm the butt of the joke, not like we're joking around together. I don't feel like I'm in on the joke or even understanding it at all. My worst fear is that he'll fake a proposal in front of other people and I'll end up in a really awkward situation. I tried to explain this to him, but my partner has a habit of shutting down when I bring problems to him. He also got really offended when I told him about that worst fear, saying, "How could you think I would do that?" And I kind of feel gaslit by that. Has anyone ever dealt with something like this before? It's turned into a pretty serious argument. He's shut down completely and he hasn't spoken to me since yesterday. What the hell do I do? A lot of people focused on one line, that he has a habit of shutting down whenever she brings him a problem. Commenters said that's the real red flag here. He's almost 30, and instead of talking things through, he either withdraws or gives her the silent treatment. Several people pointed out that if this is how he reacts to a relatively small issue, What happens when something truly serious comes up, like a major life event, an accident, or a crisis? They questioned whether she'd be left to handle everything alone. Others took a more playful, petty approach and suggested she flip the script. If he wants to keep fake proposing, they said she should start loudly fake rejecting him, acting embarrassed, saying things like, "Oh no, you know I'd never marry you," and making it clear in front of others that his proposal would always be a no. The idea was to turn the joke back on him so he feels how embarrassing it can be. But quite a few commenters were more blunt. They felt this wasn't just a bad joke, but a pattern of him enjoying making her the butt of it and then getting offended when she finally spoke up. In their eyes, that doesn't look like good partner material. Some told her they didn't believe he would change, and advised her to seriously consider leaving and finding someone who respects her boundaries and doesn't find her humiliation entertaining. What do you think about this situation? Is this just a dumb running joke that went too far? Or is it a sign of a deeper problem with how he handles conflict and her feelings? If you were in her shoes, would you talk it out, try to turn the joke around, or walk away? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoy these stories, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. A husband packs his things and walks out in under an hour, leaving behind a devastated wife and a 5-year-old begging to know if daddy still loves him. When that little boy starts crying to call his father, mom lets him, and then gets accused of weaponizing her own child. Now with a shocking new detail about what dad's been hiding, she's trying to figure out what to do next. I let my 5-year-old call my 34-year-old husband whenever he wanted to after he packed all his stuff and left 2 days ago. How do we move forward? We've been together for 12 years total, 8 of them married. Out of the blue, during a check-in from me, he said he couldn't do it anymore, and he packed all his stuff and ran off to go live with his mom an hour away. From the start of that conversation to him leaving the house was less than an hour. We are a very close-knit small family. We do lots of things together, and my son is very attached to both of us. He's never been a day without either of us. My son was inconsolable. He was literally asking, "When will he come back? Does daddy not love me anymore? Will I get a new daddy? But my friend has a daddy." I'm not putting words in his mouth. He said all of this plus more. I couldn't even keep myself from falling apart. Anyway, one time on the day he left, I'd let him call his father, and I let him call 2 times on the second day. I was trying not to contact him at all. I'm heartbroken, but all my son wanted to do was talk to him. So I let him a few times. Every single time he was asking him, "When are you coming home? I miss you. I just want you to live with me." And so on. No conversation ever went over a few minutes. My husband made a post on a dad page that I was doing it on purpose to manipulate and use my child as a weapon. That I was trying to control the situation. I was not. I shouldn't have to answer all his questions. I didn't abandon my family. I shouldn't have to pick up all the pieces, so a few times I let him call him because he begged me, crying. Was I manipulating him? Was I using him as a weapon? I don't want to manipulate, control, or weaponize anyone. But I don't think it should be my responsibility to explain to him why daddy doesn't want to come home. Especially when I never wanted him to leave either. How do I go forward from here? Too long. Didn't read. Husband left. Kid sad. Wants to call dad. Dad says that is manipulating, controlling, and weaponizing the child by letting him call him. How do we both move forward without doing these things? Edit. He's been cheating since January. Just found out. Commenters focused on 2 big areas: legal protection and emotional protection. A lot of people told her to stop trying to communicate directly with her husband and to get a good family law attorney immediately. They said she should find out her rights, prepare for divorce, custody, and child support, and only communicate with him through a lawyer from this point on. They also suggested she take screenshots of his online accusations about her weaponizing their son, because that could matter in a future custody case. Several warned her not to share details with friends or family who might pass information back to him, because it looks like he's already trying to paint her as the bad guy. For her son, many commenters emphasized being gently honest in a child-appropriate way. One parent who'd been through something similar said the key is not to lie to the kids, but to make it very clear that none of this is their fault. They suggested explaining that mommy and daddy can't live together right now, that she doesn't know how long daddy will be away, and that she's confused and sad too, but without putting emotional responsibility on the child. They recommended validating his big feelings, naming them for him, and reassuring him over and over that he didn't do anything wrong, and that daddy is dealing with adult things that are about daddy, not about him. Several people advised against facilitating more phone calls for the moment, not as punishment for the dad, but to protect the little boy from possible rejection, confusion, or having the narrative twisted. Instead of more calls, they suggested alternatives to help him feel connected, like drawing pictures of daddy, making a list of questions he has, or other activities that let him express his feelings safely. They also reminded OP that her son's behavior may regress or get harder for a while, and that this is a normal reaction to hurt, not a reflection on her parenting. And some commenters wondered if there might be something else going on with the husband, mental health issues, substance use, or some kind of crisis, because the suddenness of his exit and abandoning his child seemed so out of character based on how she described their family. With the later edit about cheating, that added another layer to what he'd been doing behind the scenes. What do you think about this situation? Was mom wrong to let her son call his dad when he was begging and crying? Or was dad out of line to call that weaponizing their child? And if you've been through a sudden separation with kids involved, how did you handle contact and explanations? Let me know your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. A nerdy teacher hangs a tiny sci-fi flag on his desk. And suddenly his friend's new girlfriend is telling everyone he's a neo-Nazi who shouldn't be around kids. Now he's stuck between protecting his job, saving a friendship, and dealing with rumors that just won't die. My friend's girlfriend is convinced I'm a neo-Nazi because of Warhammer. How can I protect myself? So to start off, I'm a 26-year-old guy and I'm a bit nerdy. I fix cars, I do carpentry, but I also really like Warhammer. I don't play the tabletop games, but I read a lot of the lore because I like science fiction. My girlfriend, she's 25, is very sweet, and she got me an Imperium of Man flag. It's really small, just something I keep in a little frame on my desk. My friend from college, let's call him Dave, he's also 26, has a new girlfriend who's 23. She seemed nice, and they both seemed happy together, so my girlfriend and I invited them over for dinner at our house. I showed them around the place. I renovated it all myself, refinished the floors, put in new cabinets, new trim and crown molding, all that. When I took them to see my office, I'd done chair rail and panel molding on the walls in there too. Nothing really happened that night. She got really quiet after seeing my desk, but she never said anything directly. When I asked my friend to come over again this week, he said he couldn't because I have alt-right insignia in my office. I was really confused and asked what he was talking about. He mentioned the Warhammer flag and said his girlfriend saw it as a Nazi symbol. I texted both of them a wiki page from Warhammer to show what it's actually from. I thought that would be the end of it. Just a simple mistake that gets cleared up once you know better. But Dave and his girlfriend didn't respond at all to the messages. Instead, One of our other mutual friends reached out and told me she's telling our college buddies that I'm a neo-Nazi. I started getting a few messages from these mutual friends because they didn't believe her and wanted to hear my side. I guess she doubled down and found some sketchy articles online trying to connect Warhammer and far-right extremism. My other friends all basically decided this woman is nuts and have distanced themselves from both of them. Normally, I wouldn't really care what this woman thinks, but it's affected my relationship with Dave. I haven't been able to talk to him or see him. I also know she knows where I work. I'm a teacher. And she was saying stuff like I shouldn't be around children. I'm worried she's going to report me to my job or something and try to get me fired. Dave is completely radio silent, and his girlfriend just seems to be spinning lies about me. Too long, didn't read. I have a Warhammer flag in my office, and my friend's girlfriend is convinced I'm a neo-Nazi, so I'm scared she's going to try to report me to my work. Redditors focused heavily on how to protect himself at work, in case she actually does try to report him. One of the top suggestions was to keep it simple and factual if anything comes up on the job. If a coworker, parent, or administrator ever asks, the advice is to calmly explain that she misunderstood a symbol from Warhammer 40K, a dystopian sci-fi franchise, and that the flag is from that fictional universe, not a political or extremist symbol. Several people pointed out that, as a teacher, he may have some built-in protection. If he's in a teachers' union, commenters strongly recommended talking to a union rep now, not later. The idea is to quietly ask for guidance on what to do if someone makes a false accusation based on a misunderstanding about a fictional property, and to understand his rights and the process ahead of time. Others suggested going one step further and getting ahead of the rumor at work in a low-key, professional way. A popular comment said he could have a brief conversation with his boss or principal, framing it like this: he enjoys dystopian sci-fi, specifically Warhammer 40K, and a friend's girlfriend has decided that his liking a particular fictional faction means he's a neo-Nazi. She's been spreading that around their mutual social circle, and he just wants to make sure his boss is aware in case she tries to escalate it to the school. That commenter also noted that Warhammer is still relatively obscure to a lot of people, and because the franchise deliberately uses some of the worst parts of human history in an exaggerated, fictional way, it can easily be misunderstood by someone looking for connections to extremism. So, calmly educating his employer before any complaint lands on their desk might prevent a knee-jerk reaction. At the same time, people reminded him that this is edging into legal territory. One commenter suggested asking in a legal advice forum, or even consulting a lawyer if possible, before taking any formal steps, just to make sure he doesn't accidentally make things worse or say something that could be misinterpreted. Overall, the tone of the comments was, "Don't panic. Document what's happening. Quietly line up support at work and be ready with a clear, simple explanation if anyone questions him." What do you think he should do here? Should he proactively talk to his boss and union, or wait and see if she actually makes a move? And how would you handle a friend going radio silent while their partner spreads serious accusations about you? Let me know your thoughts and what you'd advise in the comments below.